Hi. I know your channel is primarily all about cryptids and things like that, so forgive me if this doesn't fit into that realm. But I know I saw something in the paranormal or supernatural realm. That much I do believe. Back when I was around 9 or 10 years old, I invited one of my close friends over for a party. We stayed up till about 3 or 4 in the morning, eating junk food, playing Xbox, the usual things that 6th graders do. But before I go on with my story, and what it is that my friend and I saw, who, by the way, having a secondary witness will always help your case, let me take a brief moment to describe the layout of our house and the land surrounding it. I don't know how much acreage we actually had, but the way our house looked, you'd pull up on the end of the road, because that's where our house was, at the very end, and you go up the driveway to a small single-story house with a basement. But the way the land was, it kind of sloped down in a long hill. It was a very gradual decline. So, as you go up the driveway to the first story of the house, you'd go right into the main foyer area, and the living room off to your left, and the kitchen directly in front of you. Now, directly to your right, you could go down to the stairs, which led to the family room. And because of the sloping landscape, right out the back door, directly to your right, or in front of you, would be our backyard, which was now level with the sloping ground. Or to make it easier to understand, instead of going into our house, if you were to walk all the way around the house, the land sloped so much that the downstairs family room back door was level with the ground. Meaning, if you were to look out from the back side of the first story window, you would technically now be on the second story because of how the ground sloped. Sorry, I'm not good at explaining this, so I'm trying to do this without being too redundant. Hopefully you get what I mean. Now, on the left and right side of the houses, there were no trees, just tall wooden fences, and our backyard went quite a ways down, and there was some trees and some forested area way down there, but nothing that I ever went and played with. Looking back on it, I think they were just 2 undeveloped plots of land that were probably going to have future development of houses, but I can't be too sure. I never played back there, since we moved in when I was 8, and, well, I just never bothered exploring down there. We didn't live in this house much longer after this incident had occurred. Okay, so let's get back up to speed. So, it's about midnight, 1 in the morning. My friend and I are down in the family room, playing video games on the large screen TV. Our backs are facing the sliding glass door that if you were to go out would lead directly down the sloping back side of the house. Actually, if I remember right, we were actually playing Halo, which if that's not a throwback to the past for you. So, at one point or another, my friend gets up and needs to go get a glass of water. He goes upstairs, gets his water, and as he's coming downstairs, he stops and he's like, "Dude, what was that?" And I turn around and I could see him freaked out, kind of hiding in the small hallway that would guard him from any view of the sliding glass door. There's a couch directly behind me, so if you were to look in from the sliding glass door, you could probably only see the top of my head. So I kind of had to stand up a little bit to see what he was referring to. As I stood up, I didn't see anything. So I'm kind of looking at him, confused at what the panic was about. And he's like, "I saw movement. Somebody's out there, I think." I mean, even at 9 or 10 years old, I thought it was a ridiculous idea. No one's going to try and break into our house. It's nothing special. And my dad keeps several guns loaded by his bed and in his closet. On top of that, my dad was a chatty Cathy. He was pretty much in cahoots with just about every neighbor within a mile of us. Even if they weren't the best of friends, he pretty much talked to everybody. So we were a known family in this small vicinity of the street. So I just told my friend that I'm sure it's nothing. It was probably just the reflection of him coming in the room. But he stayed a little bit panicked and looked back at the glass, waited, didn't see anything, and after about a minute or two of trying to convince him that all is well, he was like, "All right, you're right. I'm probably just freaking out." So he comes back, sits down, and we're back to engrossing ourselves in Halo multiplayer. Now, as we move forward in time a little bit, maybe a couple matches had gone by, so I can't see it being more than an hour tops. I feel like that's kind of a stretch. But at one point, him and I both hear a loud bang on the window, like somebody took a hard, maybe metal object, and slammed it up against the window, causing us both to scream and throw our controllers, jumping up and looking back. We could actually see the window still shaking from impact, but no movement, nothing. We actually did not have any sort of porch light or any light beyond the sliding glass door, so you couldn't really see much beyond what the light in the room allowed you to see on the outside. And now we were sure somebody was out there, and my friend's story seemed very believable very quickly. So we both agreed, let's go tell our dad. Without wasting a second, we jump up, go run up to my parents' room, bang on the door, my dad not being too happy that we're waking him up over probably some nonsense, and he worked a pretty early shift in the morning. Around 3 or 4 he had to get up, so he wasn't thrilled. We explained to him we swore we saw somebody trying to get into the house from the sliding glass door. He pops up, grabs his shotgun, and immediately barrels past us, down the stairs, down to the family room. Without even hesitating, grabs a flashlight, opens the sliding glass door, and we're following the whole time. He doesn't even say a word, doesn't ask any questions. Opens the door, shines it around. The shotgun is cocked and loaded, and he's got it ready to fire. So now he's yelling out, "We know you're here. Show yourself. You better run. I got a loaded gun." All sorts of taunts and whatnot. My dad took this stuff very seriously, and because of that, he's very much a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy. So he's out there for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, looking around, scanning everything, doesn't see anything. And at one point, he turns the flashlight off, walks in, closes the door, and just tells us, "Boys, I think you may have seen a dog or something. There's probably a reason for what you heard." Doesn't waste any more time, wishes us luck on our Halo multiplayer, and explains to us he's got to be up early, so he's going to go back to bed, let him know if anything else happens. So we say our goodnights, and we calmly go back to playing Halo once again. Maybe about 20 or 30 minutes had passed, and I'm pretty sure by this point, my dad was fast asleep. We had just finished another Halo multiplayer match, and I think we were deciding to go up to the kitchen to grab some food. So him and I both get up, and we turn and look, as our attention is naturally drawn to something looking at us through the window. We both look, and we see this face staring at us through the window that I can only describe looks like Skeletor, if you've ever seen that. My friend and I both go screaming upstairs, and we hide up in the kitchen for probably the next hour or two, too afraid to wake up my father, since he had to get up here in a couple of hours. So we both grab knives, and we sit there and we wait. Maybe 30 minutes or an hour goes by, and we're brave enough to go back downstairs. At that point, we just decide to say screw it. We go downstairs together, turn off the Xbox, shut off the lights, and run upstairs. We sleep up in the living room, where we have safety of height from where we were in the family room, and we sleep out there. My dad wakes us up maybe about 4:35, asking us why we have knives and why we're sleeping up here in the living room and not down in the family room where we already had our sleeping bags. We didn't really tell him right away. We kind of just said we were a little spooked, that we thought we saw something. I'm pretty sure my dad just thought we were hyped up on fear and paranoia, but I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes he could be a really hard person to read, but not much was said. He went off to work. We went back to sleep. Nothing happened the rest of the time after that. But when my dad came home, he really seemed concerned. At this point, my friend had already long gone home, so it was just me and my mother home. He pulled me aside and was asking me, "What did you and your friend see last night?" And I told him exactly that we saw this strange skeleton-looking face looking at us through the window. It did not look like somebody with face paint on. It looked like something out of a horror movie. That much I do remember. Even only being 9 or 10 years old, that image of that face is forever burned in my mind, and it was staring at us for God knows how long. As I'm explaining this to him, his expression only grows more and more concerning, as he told me that before he came home, he spoke with some of the neighbors next door, and they too were saying that last night they had what they thought was a visitor trying to break in, that gave very similar descriptions as to what I said. So he knows I'm not lying, but he just told me I should stay in my room from now on, and always keep an eye out, and if I see anything, let him know. Luckily, after that, I never saw that face or experienced that again. I never went down to the family room after dark. It freaked me out too much after that. And any time I had friends over, for the remainder of living in that house, we would always go upstairs, or at least close the blinds if it got too dark. Not even 5 months later, we moved out of that house. I have a more recent encounter with something. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I suspect it might be the rake. Ultimately, I'll let you be the judge. So, a quick background on me. I'm 19 now, and back when this happened in 2019, I was 17, almost graduating high school. Because our house is pretty small, my parents are usually really nosy. Like, they always eavesdrop on me and my girlfriend's conversation. So, what I like to do is leave the house and go off into this small area of woods nearby. It's actually on a local trail, so it's not too busy. Anyway, I go out there as often as I can to go have private conversations. And no, not like that. Just to have conversation without being eavesdropped on. And so one day, things were pretty usual. I went out there in the afternoon. My girlfriend and I were chit-chatting on the phone. Everything was good. Oh, and I should also mention, I just love being out in the sunshine and the greenery around me in general. So that was an added bonus. At one point or another during the phone conversation, I was just kind of, loosely looking around when I could have sworn I saw the face of somebody watching me through the trees. Maybe, 50 feet away, behind a tree. I had a double take, but the face disappeared. I thought I was just seeing things. Got lost in conversation again. Didn't mention anything. And then I see the same face again, from a different tree, behind me, as I was kind of turning around and just talking. That's when I immediately told my girlfriend over the phone that I think somebody was spying on me. So I turned around and began shortly walking down the trail, at a pretty brisk pace, just to kind of keep things moving. And right then, I hear rustling of leaves and twigs snapping. So I look over, and I see this all-white figure, at least from what I could see through the trees, on all fours, crawling like an animal. Not coming towards me, of course, but just keeping up along with me, staying the same distance away as it was when it first looked at me. In the moment, though, I thought it was maybe some crazed naked druggie or some meth head, so I thought I was about to get jumped. So I quickly turn back around and I start running and sprinting as fast as I can back home, with my girlfriend still on the phone. I hear this thing turn around with me and start leaping through the forest. It sounds like a horse galloping. Whatever it was sounded very large and very heavy. But at some point, the noise stopped, and I never turned around to see if it had burst out into the trail and was following me. By the time I did make it back towards my house, I did try and turn and see, but I didn't see anything suspicious looking following me off the trail into the neighborhood. So maybe it only followed me a certain way, or maybe it was curious. I say it because I would later try and research, my girlfriend and I, and based on the description that I gave her and what I found, it looked to be what people are calling a rake, even though at the time, I thought it was some naked meth head who was about to jump me. But I didn't know any better. And I guess the rake is considered what you would call a cryptid, something I know nothing about. So, you seem to be the go-to guy for these kinds of monster stories, I guess. So, what can you tell me about this encounter I had? Was it just all in my head? Or was this potentially a rake? Or something else entirely?